Was I in the wrong for breaking up over text? Backstory. I liked this guy. Let's call him Joe. On and off for about a year. He flirted with me and I thought he liked me too, but he never made a move. Then summer came and I didn't see him for a year. Out of the blue, I got a call from him. We started talking again and I caught feelings all over. We called and texted almost every day. Eventually, he asked me on a real date. The date went great. He was kind, respectful, basically everything I thought I wanted in a guy. Or so I thought. I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship and told him I didn't want to rush things. The first red flag came when he told me he had a crush on another girl and compared me to her. I know, it was a big red flag, but I ignored it because, well, I guess I was naive. During the first 2-3 months of dating, he was really depressed. I barely knew him yet. I supported him emotionally. This becomes relevant later. Fast forward to the present, I started to see signs of narcissism and unresolved trauma that clearly weren't going to be fixed. Here are just some of the red flags I ignored. He didn't like it when I made more money than him or worked more hours. He'd tell me to quit my job. I bought a gym membership so we could go together. His idea, too. But after going once, he said he had no reason to go anymore. Then he told me I couldn't go without him because he didn't want guys hitting on me. He constantly insulted my family, church, and friends. He would ask for feedback on how to improve our relationship, but when I suggested even minor things, he'd say, "Change doesn't happen overnight." Then he'd list 10 things I was doing wrong and blame everything on me. When I had a bad day or felt down, he'd say, word for word, "Don't be poopy, be happy." That's your victim mentality. He used victim mentality often when I brought up relationship problems. I started feeling physically sick from the stress of both work and our relationship. When I canceled casual hangouts to rest, he'd get upset and show up at my house uninvited. He lost his license for speeding, didn't learn from it, and expected me to drive him everywhere, sometimes even asking me to change my work schedule. I respected his time, but if I said I couldn't talk because I was busy, he'd spam call and text, then get mad when I didn't respond. He didn't believe in therapy and refused to get help. He insisted we had to get married at 18 to avoid sexual sin. When I asked if we could wait until 19, he refused, only agreeing after we broke up that it might have been better. He pressured me into things I wasn't comfortable with. When I gave in, he later blamed me for not stopping him, even though I tried multiple times. Eventually, I stopped trying. So yes, I know I carry some of that blame too. On Valentine's weekend, I had a church retreat planned. Long before we even started dating, I told him months ahead and even invited him. He didn't want to go but told me I shouldn't either, because he knows how guys think. I suggested we celebrate on the Friday before I left. He reluctantly agreed. I told him not to get me anything. I honestly didn't care. But I made him a cake and homemade mac and cheese. He thanked me, but then complained that the mac and cheese wasn't Kraft. He kind of apologized. I didn't tell anyone what was going on except my sister, who was there for me every time I cried after a call with him. My family and friends noticed I didn't talk about him and didn't seem like myself. About 3-4 months before the breakup, I finally went to a mentor and told her everything. She encouraged me to think and pray about it. I waited months hoping something would change, but I started dreading seeing him. I even found myself making excuses to get out of plans. He noticed me pulling away and began love bombing. But even then, I wasn't happy. Every night before bed, I prayed he would break up with me. But he never did. So I knew I had to. I knew if I tried to do it in person, he would manipulate me into staying. So I broke up with him over text. I know that's not ideal, but I just couldn't do it face to face. We got into a fight over text, and he asked if we should break up. I said yes. I explained my reasons. He told me I'd change my mind in a few weeks. Spoiler, I didn't. When he realized I was serious, he started messaging my younger siblings and mutual friends, saying I was the problem and asking them to put in a good word for him. Eventually, they all blocked him, except me. That's when he lost it. He started yelling at me, threatening to hurt himself, and saying awful things like, "I never should have dated you. You have a bad dating history, and you wouldn't have been a submissive enough wife anyway." I had to block him. He made a fake Instagram to stalk mine. His sister and friend called me trying to convince me to take him back. We had a church event he wasn't invited to. He's not part of our church. And somehow he found the address and showed up. Just watched from a distance. Later, he denied even being there. I know no relationship is one-sided. I'm not perfect, and I know breaking up over text wasn't the best way to handle it. But I genuinely feel like I had no other option. Part of me still wonders, am I the asshole? I can't tell if I made all of this up in my head or if it was as toxic as it felt. If you made it to the end, thank you. I know this was long. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry for the vent. You are not the asshole. You were in a controlling, emotionally manipulative relationship. Breaking up over text might not have been ideal, but in your case, it was a safe and necessary decision. The red flags weren't in your head. You showed patience, compassion, and maturity. Leaving was the brave thing to do. That's just my take, but do let me know what you guys think. Am I the a-hole for wanting to back out of helping my sister-in-law because I don't like that she installed cameras just to be safe? My wife used to get our niece ready and take her to daycare every Friday. She was off work on Fridays, and her sister, my sister-in-law, had to be at work by 6:30 a.m., while the daycare didn't open until 7. When my wife's work schedule changed and she could no longer do it, I offered to adjust my own schedule so I could help. I started work later on Fridays, at 10 a.m., and for the past 4 months, I've been taking care of our niece during that early morning gap. During this time, my sister-in-law never voiced any concerns. I always answered when she called, and everything seemed fine. Recently, however, we found out she had installed cameras inside her home. My wife asked her about it, and her response was simply, "You never know." That phrase honestly threw me off. She had never raised an issue before, but now she wants surveillance because you never know? What is she implying? My wife asked her directly if I had ever done anything that made her uncomfortable or concerned. Asil said no, and again emphasized that it was just a safety precaution. Still, the insinuation behind "you never know" really bothered me. I told my wife I no longer felt comfortable going into her sister's house or being around our niece in that context. If she doesn't trust me, or if she's even entertaining the possibility that I could be a threat, then I don't want to be involved. My wife agreed that the situation felt strange, especially since I've known her sister for over 16 years. However, some people think I'm overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. But to me, this feels like a gendered assumption, that I'm being scrutinized just because I'm a man. Update. Thanks to everyone who shared feedback and different perspectives. My wife and I decided to talk to her sister together, and to say the least, it was eye-opening. I asked her directly why she had installed the cameras. Again, she gave the vague, "you never know" response. But my wife pushed harder and asked her to be honest about what she really meant. After a lot of dancing around the question, she finally admitted that she wasn't comfortable with me changing her daughter's clothes while unsupervised. When I asked if she genuinely believed I might harm her daughter, she shrugged. That moment didn't just frustrate me. It hurt. But it really made my wife furious. She continued to press her sister, and eventually, Essel confessed that she had never felt comfortable with me being alone with her child. She said she felt betrayed when my wife changed the original arrangement. According to her, I seemed too eager to rearrange my schedule and take over Fridays, and it made her uneasy. I explained that I was insistent because I didn't want my wife to miss out on a career opportunity just to uphold an arrangement she made out of obligation. I stepped in to help, not to creep anyone out. After that conversation, I told my sister-in-law I would no longer be taking her daughter to daycare. That was on a Wednesday. She had to take the day off that Friday to cover it herself. In short, she never wanted me alone with her daughter. She found it suspicious how readily I adjusted my schedule. And now my wife's family thinks I'm the weird, creepy guy. It's been deeply upsetting. My wife had one final conversation with her sister that Friday, and apparently things got pretty heated. Sister-in-law later called to apologize. I appreciated that, but I told her plainly, either you trust me or you don't. And since it's clear she doesn't, she should find someone she does trust. Her emotional response was that we were being unfair. She claimed she was just trying to keep her daughter safe. I told her the best way to do that is to find a new Friday solution or adjust her work schedule. Originally, I considered offering an alternative, like having her drop our niece off at our place before work. But after that conversation, I knew it was better for everyone if I stepped back completely. I don't know what long-term damage this will cause with the family, but I do know this. If she's uncomfortable with me, it's not our job to convince her otherwise. She's entitled to her feelings, and I'm entitled to protect my peace. As many people pointed out, yeah, my wife is amazing. Some asked why I'm not angrier about the whole situation. The truth is, I am upset, but more than anything, I'm hurt. Not just because of the accusations, but because this whole ordeal is likely to permanently change our relationship with her family. That's heartbreaking for my wife, especially since she and our niece are very close. She's even her godmother. We love that little girl, but this incident has created a rift that may never fully heal. OP, I don't think you're the a-hole. You volunteered to help because your wife couldn't continue the arrangement and you didn't want her to sacrifice a job opportunity. That's admirable. You weren't forcing yourself into the situation. You were filling a gap out of responsibility and care for both your wife and niece. If your sister-in-law had concerns from the beginning, she had months to bring them up respectfully. Instead, she allowed you to continue doing her a favor while silently judging you, and then responded with vague distrust. You never know. And surveillance. That's not protective parenting. That's passive-aggressive mistrust. When you directly asked if she believed you'd harm her daughter and she shrugged, that's a massive breach of respect and decency. A shrug implies, maybe. That's a character assassination with no evidence. You have every right to be hurt and to walk away from the arrangement. It's difficult to ignore how this might have played out differently if you were a woman. The fact that your wife did the same thing without any concern, but you doing it raised red flags suggests a double standard. That kind of assumption can be deeply damaging and unfair. You're not wrong for stepping back, especially once it became clear that she doesn't trust you. You deserve to protect your peace and your reputation. You and your wife seem to be on the same page, which is the most important thing. But what do you think, listeners? Is he being reasonable for stepping back, or is there a different way this could have been handled? Let us know in the comments. AITA or not.